Hello, welcome back for another video on ARK Survival Ascended, and today we're diving into the top 10 best creatures you need to tame for the new Astraeos map. A few things to note: this map is not yet fully complete, so my list will include the best creatures on offer at the time of the release. Plus, as this map is a paid DLC, I will also be including paid DLC creatures. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. Kicking off our list is going to be the Basilosaurus. It is 100% my favourite aquatic creature in the game, and if you're anything like me and hate the ocean, well, you'll be in good hands when riding this beauty. You'll find them spawning all around the ocean, not typically straying too close to the surface, but you can also find them spawning in the shallower parts of the ocean too. So for the most part, you will need a means of diving down to search for one. The Basilosaurus will be found accompanied with an entourage of mantas, so you will need to clear them out first before feeding it. I highly recommend using a creature later on this list to aid in making taming one much easier. It is tamed passively, preferring exceptional kibble from your final hotbar slot. Whenever fed, it will attract nearby predators, so you do have to be wary of that. There is quite a long interval after the first feed, but after that it can be fed a piece of kibble in much shorter intervals. Rinse and repeat until it is tamed. Once tamed and saddled up at level 60, you will have yourself a great water mount that will keep you safe from harm from many of the dangers the ocean has to offer. With an extremely high health pool, decent damage output, and other great stats across the board, the Basilosaurus is more than capable of taking down any of the dangerous threats the ocean possesses. It will protect the rider from anything and everything, giving the rider a massive insulation buff, providing 562 hypothermic and hypothermic protection. You can ride your Bazzy butt naked and it will still keep the frostbite away, or in the case of Astraeos, the heat stroke. Completely immune to the Nidaria stun attack, the Electrophorus shock attack, and also the Tuso Two-Fist grapple attack. It will make you untouchable when exploring the deepest parts of the ocean. The Basilosaurus will produce up to 20 spoilable oil in its inventory, where you have to take it out for it to begin producing more. So if you have a bunch of them, they can provide you with a substantial amount. The Basilosaurus can also quickly regenerate its health when at the ocean's surface, allowing for it to quickly get back on into the fight. The only downside of the Bazzy is that they do slowly take health damage when below a certain depth, but this is minimal considering how high their health pool is. Considering the size of the ocean as it is right now, with a lack of points of interest down here, I do believe that it will not stay that way forever, and I am crossing my fingers that the creators will add some difficult underwater artifact caves similar to the caliber of the island map, which is why the Basilosaurus makes it to number 10 on the list. In at number 9, we have the Baryonyx, another very popular pick for many survivors. You'll find the odd few spawning in the rivers around Astraeos, and more commonly in the northern swamp area, so that is always my go-to spot to find one. Tamed via typical knockout methods, being a piscivore, it will only eat fish meat. However, for the best taming effectiveness, you'll be wanting to feed it regular kibble. Once tamed and saddled up at level 49, you will have yourself a very versatile semi-aquatic mount. It isn't the strongest battle mount by any means, but it does have many perks and advantages that tip the scales over its rivals of similar size. With having great speed, mobility, and the ability to jump while having a very slim build, makes it a go-to pick for many survivors when exploring artifact caves. The rider can also wield their weapons when mounted to dish out that extra damage from afar, and as the Baryonyx does not possess an oxygen stat, it is the perfect mount to open the door to ocean exploration, having a decent swim speed and having a deadly tailspin attack, which can only be used underwater. This attack can temporarily stun a wide variety of small to medium creatures and players for the duration of 10 seconds, making the Baryonyx deadly when swimming. The Baryonyx is my go-to mount when taming a Basilosaurus, as you can pull the aggro of the mantas, tail stun, and kill them off with little to no danger, making taming so much easier. It heals very quickly when force-fed fish meat, and can also heal large chunks of its health when killing fish, which can be an absolute lifesaver in many situations. It can then quickly dive right back on into the fight. In at number 8, we have the Phylocoleo. It is one of the most popular picks for many survivors, and for good reason. If you're looking for a speedy, agile, and mobile creature to traverse Astraeos, the Phylocoleo will always be a good pick. You can find the Phylos spawning in a select few locations. They seem to only commonly spawn in these highlighted areas on the left side of the map. The lower area is by far the best, being a dense forest surrounding a lake. Tamed via typical knockout methods, preferring either extraordinary kibble for the best taming effectiveness, or cooked lamb chops for its second preferred taming food. Once tamed and saddled up at level 51, having great overall stats across the board, able to jump and scale vertical surfaces with ease, will have you traversing any terrain in no time at all. But it isn't their stats that make them shine, but the ability to quickly bleed out their target's health. Their bite attack will inflict the Nash status effect, which will drain 5% of the target's health over 5 seconds, which is one of the strongest bleeds in the game. However, this effect will not work against bosses, but in any other case, this means the Phylo can easily take down larger threats stats than itself, able to pierce saddle armor and also any source of natural armor protection, for example the rock elemental. So this means that the filer can take down far larger threats than itself. Adding to this, the rider can wield their weapons when mounted, so with the combination of both, you'll be able to dish out a lot of damage, while nipping around quickly with the filer's exceptional mobility. For these reasons, the filer is hands down one of the best battle mounts you can own in the game. In at number 7, we have the jack of all trades that is the Astraeos, and I'm probably going to receive some hate here as I picked it over the Rhino Nafa, as the Rhino is more of an endgame tame and much harder to obtain, plus it's butt ugly. For me, the Astraeos is so much more useful for the entirety of a playthrough, early, mid and late game. Even a low level Astraeos will serve numerous purposes and will help you out exponentially. You will find the Astraeos spawning everywhere around the mountains of Corinthos and very commonly throughout for Kinfos. It pretty much spawns everywhere across the map, and it's also one of the easiest creatures to tame through simple knockout taming methods and preferring superior kibble for the best taming effectiveness. But if you're anything like me, you'll most likely tame your first one with raw prime meat or raw mutton. Once tamed and saddled up at level 62, you'll be asking yourself, is there anything that the Astraeos cannot do? With decent health, stamina and weight stats, able to output decent damage too, while causing great knockback to targets when walking on land. Pairing its fighting capabilities with its rapid regeneration buff, which occurs whenever it bites or consumes a carcass, giving it health and stamina regeneration for the duration of 20 seconds. Able to pick up a wide variety of creatures in its talons, paired with a Doedicurus or Ankylosaurus for the perfect farming team. It can also pick up small creatures in its beak, which can make taming the otter very easy, as it will keep the creature in its beak even after landing. The saddle can also be used as a portable smithy to craft and repair items on the go, which has saved my life multiple times, as having an Astraeos pumped in weight makes crafting those expensive blueprints a possibility, which would normally be impossible to craft in a smithy. Due to its weight reduction, it can hold a wide variety of heavy resources, the perfect companion for cargo hauling and crafting alike. The Astraeos has and always will be one of my favourite creatures to use whatever the map I am playing. In at number 6, we have the Dreadmare, the first paid DLC creature to ever appear on my channel, as I don't normally bother covering them. As this is a paid DLC map, I cannot avoid the creature any longer, so yeah, you will have to pay $5 to be able to fully interact with the creature, which is apparently on sale right now. You will only find them spawning at night time. They are completely invisible during the day and come out to play around 8:25 PM, only spawning on Ferocus, aka Lava Island. It has one of the more unique taming methods, and you do have to be very well prepared for it. Once you are fully stocked up on boss tributes, the first thing you'll want to do is kill a wild one and access the inventory to take the altar out. Once you have all your boss tributes at the ready, you basically need a stack of each boss tribute that will spawn on Astraeos. Here is a list of all the creatures that do spawn on the map currently. I do believe I've covered all tributes, but I may have missed some. Plus, luckily, you will never need any aquatic tributes for this taming process. And depending on your taming rates, you will need a good stack of each. I'd say at least 10 to 15 of each. That is if you are playing on official with 1x rates. But you definitely won't need this many if playing on a server with better taming rates. The altar can only be interacted with at nighttime just after 9 PM. Place down the altar in an open space and nowhere near to your base or anything that you care about. The altar will then ask for tributes. Place tribute, Dreadmare spawns, kill Dreadmare within allotted time, which will therefore improve taming affinity. If you don't have one of the required tributes at hand and the feeding interval timer runs out, then the altar will spawn that creature into the wild, where you will have to fight it. So for example, if you didn't have an Alpha Rex arm at hand, then say hello to an Alpha Rex. You will probably need a strong creature to fight these off if it does happen. A strong Giga or Karka should do the job. Whenever this occurs, the altar will lose a third in durability, so you don't really want to be missing any tributes, because missing 3 tribute offerings will cause the altar in your Dreadmare to go poof into thin air. Just rinse and repeat this process until you have the option to claim it from the altar. If you are looking for an in-depth taming guide, my friend Krabby has the best taming guide on YouTube, so I highly recommend checking that one out. Link will be in the description of the video. Now that you do have yourself a dark horse, you are ready to have some fun.
You're gonna have me some fun!
It does not require a saddle to ride. It is a great traversal mount for a large map like Astraeos, able to dive and swoop just like the Griffin, so you'll be covering those long distance journeys in no time at all. It has an array of different attacks and abilities at its disposal. A regular bite attack, nothing special there. The wing blade ranged attack will slightly damage the target, also inflicting the health drinker debuff, stealing a small amount of health from the target and healing the Dreadmare for the duration of 5 seconds. This attack does scale with melee damage too. The Aura of Hate is another attack that can heal the Dreadmare, where any valid targets nearby will receive 20 damage per second. All the damage done to the targets will heal the Dreadmare at the same rate. All targets will also receive the Health Drinker debuff. Dark Wind is the next attack. This is where it shoots waves of Dark Wind, funnily enough. However, any affected creatures won't be able to use their abilities for a whopping 30 seconds, which is pretty big in the game. The Terror Shield is another strong defensive ability the Dreadmare possesses. It will deflect the next incoming attack that the Dreadmare receives, with the Dreadmare taking 0 damage while inflicting 35% damage back to the target that attacked it. This can also cause the affected creature to flee, just like the Uteranus Fearoar. And finally, we have the Black Hole, which is what really contributes to the Dreadmare being so useful. Well, definitely from a PvE perspective, that's for sure. This is when it can suck up any tamed creature acting as a cryopod, and it will even share the same properties, including the Cryo Sickness debuff, which does balance it out a little. The creatures that the Dreadmare can store is based on the drag weight of the creature and the total weight stat of the Dreadmare, so you will need to level up weight depending on what creatures you want to cryo. The strongest thing about this ability is that the creature that gets sucked up will keep its entire inventory and won't even affect the Dreadmare's weight in any way. So you can suck up your Anki, fly to a metal spot, throw out your Anki, farm some metal, rinse and repeat, and return home. I'm not really into these fantasy paid creatures, but I cannot deny how good they are in terms of utility. Coming in hot on your heels at number 5, we have the Pyromane, which is also my first time properly showcasing this beast, as this is also a paid creature, setting you back $5, which is currently on sale also. You will find them spawning on the beaches on the island of Ferokis. It is another creature with a unique taming method where you must kite it to a body of water so that it acquires the Doused debuff. Attack it to bring its health down to below 50%. Once sufficiently weakened, you can mount it, proceed to attack nearby creatures to apply a burning effect, then use Flame Absorb to absorb the flame to progress the taming meter, and you just rinse and repeat that until it is tamed. As expected, the Pyromane has an array of abilities. It is always going to be one of the most useful creatures in the game, due to being able to transform from Shodopet into large form and vice versa on the fly. It does not require a saddle to ride, but does have its own natural armor protection. The amount of armor will depend on the base level at which it was tamed. With great speed, agility, ability to jump while being an exceptional battle mount, there isn't much that the Pyromane cannot do, other than explore water, where it is exponentially weaker. It has a regular bite attack dealing decent damage, and will also apply the inflamed debuff to targets, which stacks up to 10 times, and deals a lot of damage over time when at the full 10 stacks. The Flame Absorb ability will absorb fire from any target that is being attacked by the Pyromane, which will add to its charge bar. Its Flame Leap allows it to thrust itself through the air to cover great distances, while damaging any targets it hits. It can use its Flame Boost to boost its damage by 50% at the expense of its absorbed flames, and will last until cancelled or stored fire is depleted. The Pyromane can also leave a trail of fire in its wake by consuming any absorbed flames. This does not work in the rain and will last until the button is released or stored fire is depleted. The Pyromane will act as a portable campfire, able to cook meat when inside its inventory. It will also produce cooked and prime meat jerky without the need of spark powder and oil. When in range of any structures that use wood as a fuel source, like the campfire or refining forge, it can light them without any need of a burning source. The range can be configured via its radial menu. Another passive it has is giving the player a huge insulation buff when ridden or mounted on your shoulder, giving you the Cuddle by Fire buff, which massively raises your cold and heat resistance. You can even ride your Pyromane into lava, and you and it will not take any damage. And finally, when on your shoulder, it can act as a flamethrower. Overpowered. I personally don't use any of these fantasy paid creatures myself, and I'd honestly rather replace them with a creature more useful to me, but I make these lists with the mindset of what is best for the majority of players and not myself. But the truth is, the Pyromane is hands down one of the best all-in-one battle mounts a survivor can get their hands on. Coming in at number 4 is going to be the Wyvern. The Lord of the Skies makes its return with Astraeos. Maybe I'm a little biased in sticking them up this high, but man, who doesn't love the Wyvern? You'll find their nesting grounds near the swampy area in the northern part of the map, where you will have to snatch and grab yourself a fertilized egg right under the parents' noses, and make your great escape. No doubt having an entourage of angry Wyverns nipping at your heels for the most adrenaline-fueled experience you'll ever experience in ARK, then requiring a good amount of air conditioners or a bunch of standing torches to hatch your egg. The only food they will consume when babies is Wyvern milk, where you'll need to knock out wild females in order to obtain some. Once adult, you will have yourself a beast like no other. There's not many better feelings than taking to the skies with your Wyvern, soaring through the sky quicker than most other flyers in the game, having the choice of 3 different elemental variants of Wyvern: the poison, the fire, and the lightning, each having their own devastating elemental attacks, burning targets to a crisp with the fire wyvern's breath attack, shooting home in like toxic balls with the poison wyvern, or creating your own storm with the lightning wyvern's shocking beam. The wyvern is useful for almost anything and everything, able to dish out high damage with its bite too, efficient for gathering resources from trees like wood, thatch, cactus sap and charcoal with its alternate flap attack, which can also be used to create distance between you and wild tame creatures or players. Yeet! And finally, able to pick up larger creatures than the Argentavis. It's no secret that the wyvern is a very popular pick for many survivors out there, and it's pretty obvious as to why. In at number 3 we have the Carcharodontosaurus, and with the added addition of orbital supply drops to Astraeos, makes the Carcha a very valuable asset. It does everything a Giga can, but better. As always, they share spawns with the Giga, spawning on and around the mountain highlighted on the left side of the map, and also in the north in the large open flat grassland area, with a unique taming method of dragging high drag weight creatures for it to gobble up to build up its trust, mounting it, proceeding to kill as many creatures as you possibly can to improve its taming effectiveness, which you will rinse and repeat until it is tamed. Saddled up at a whopping level 96, with a wide variety of passive buffs at its disposal. Killing Frenzy to temporarily give it a speed boost, which occurs after every killing blow. Shredded, which decreases any healing the target receives with every bite. A Roar, giving the incited buff to nearby allies, temporarily increasing their movement speed, which will drain any Blood Rage stacks, which leads us on to it. Blood Rage is the reason why the Carcha is superior to the Giga. Although it does have a lower base damage to that of a Giga, with every kill the Carcha gains will increase its Blood Rage counter, which will give it 1.75% extra damage and healing rate per stack, which when maxed out at 100 stacks, gives the Carcha a whopping 175% increased damage and healing rate. This makes them exceptionally good for defending hard and legendary OSDs, which is probably some of the more challenging PvE content in the game. The Carcha makes this challenge much more bearable, and OSDs are the best ways to farm loot on Astraeos, and everybody loves hoarding all that tasty loot. There's no better feeling than a nice warm shower of high quality loot, which is why the Carcha makes it so high up on the list. In at number 2 is the Maywing. Oh, sorry, did I say the Maywing? I meant the Mayguana. And yes, I know what everyone is thinking. It is a reskinned Maywing. You would be right for the most part. You can find them spawning around the grasslands and some of the valleys throughout the 2 large islands on the left-hand side of the map. A very easy creature to tame, which is tamed via typical knockout methods, preferring basic kibble for the best taming effectiveness, but can be fed raw mutton or raw prime meat if you don't have access to that. Once tamed, it can be saddled up at the very low level of level 19, where you will own yourself a creature that is unmatched when it comes to mobility and its amazing traveling capabilities, able to glide for almost infinite distances faster than any flyer in the game, and because it isn't actually a flyer, it will not get dismounted when touching the water, and you can also dive down on under, able to swim very quickly too, while not possessing an oxygen stat, capable of harvesting meat, berries and fiber, just to name a few, while having 50% weight reduction for any meat or berries inside its inventory. It will take care of your little ones for you. When accessing its radial menu, you can enable nursing mode. This turns the Mayguana into a feeding trough where babies will eat directly from its inventory, whenever inside its pouches or within the trough range, so you won't be needed to hand feed your. It is an absolute game changer when raising babies through the infant stage, as you won't have to hand feed them anymore. Unlike the Maywing, it does not possess a nursing effectiveness stat, which you could level to improve the trough range, and would also satisfy baby's food stat more per every level. The trough range does however seem to be much larger than an unleveled Maywing. It does also have the option to pick up 4 babies with the crouch key or via its radial menu, sticking them inside its pouches. Oh, look how cute they look. So the Mayguana will always have your back to make sure your little ones aren't running off. And finally, the Mayguana does not have a gender, but they can lay eggs of random quality and can be mated with one another. The Mayguana will no doubt be a mainstay for any and every player, whatever the stage of the game. They are just too good. I am slightly scared for what the future holds for the Maywing, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. Until then, we get the Mayguana. In at number 1, we have by far the best new addition to the game in my personal opinion, which is going to be none other than the Deinosuchus. With Astraeos being made up of a lot of ocean, you're going to need a creature that is great for ocean exploration and also land exploration, and I believe the Deinosuchus is the best at achieving both. You can find them spawning in the swamp areas of the map, with the large swamp to the north being the best spot to find them. You will need to be level 70 to be able to tame one. Tamed passively, wearing ghillie armor is a good idea to avoid unnecessary aggro from wild creatures. Wait for it to open its giant jaws, run up to it with superior kibble in your final hotbar slot, and boom, shove it in its mouth, pull a 180 and run the opposite direction, and rinse and repeat until it is tamed. Once tamed and saddled up at level 74, you will have yourself a formidable battle mount with very strong stats across the board, extremely versatile, and a great semi-aquatic mount for almost any occasion, as it does not possess an oxygen stat. And although it is much larger than its Sarco cousins, it is more maneuverable at the cost of a slightly slower sprint and swim speed, possessing some of the deadliest attacks in the game. A hefty directional bite attack, a tail swipe attack that deals slightly more damage than the basic bite, and dishes out some pretty decent knockback. Yeet. And of course its deadliest attack of all, the Gigabyte, which can be charged up and will clamp down on its enemies to deal massive damage, and if charged to 100% will also inflict the fractured debuff to the target, working similar to a bleed effect, where it will drain the target's health for 15 seconds but only when they move, which I guess would be your first thought, as no one wants to stand in a place after receiving a Gigabyte to the face. This attack can also be used underwater, which makes them extremely deadly, and the rider can also wield their weapons when mounted, which is still something I find amusing to this day. Man's been hitting that yoga hard. It will also take 50% less damage to its head, and also a wide variety of damage reductions depending on the type of weapon when hit in the body. Astraeos is home to one of the deadliest bosses in ARK, which is Medusa. She hits like an absolute truck, but so does the Dinosuchus. So pairing the Dinosuchus and the Gigabyte will be a great nomination to aid you in taking her down. The fractured debuff seems to have no effect on the bosses, but even then it's still no denying that the Dinosuchus is the best boss fighter pick for the majority of boss fight arenas. Okay, so I'm being a bit cheeky here, and I had to add a final creature which makes this a top 11. It is the Uteranus, the definition of the ultimate support dinosaur, which will be extremely valuable for the boss fights you will face on Astraeos. It is a must-have, and I just ran out of top 10 space to include it here. I personally think it is more useful than both the Pyromane and the Dreadmare, but that is just me. Found in the northern part of the map, tamed via typical knockout methods and preferring extraordinary kibble for the best taming effectiveness. Saddled up at level 80, so I'll briefly go over its abilities and utility. It is equipped with 2 roars, a fear roar which will debuff any affected targets, reducing their melee damage and damage resistance by 50%, and at full fear will begin to flee. This roar can also scare out buried Palovias. Its second roar is what it's most known for. This is the Courage Roar, which will give any affected allies 20% damage resistance and 25% attack damage for as long as the UT can roar in range, which is why they are dubbed the ultimate support dinosaur, being used in almost every boss arena and large-scale battles. And while we roll some honourable mentions, that is going to be the end of the video. I hope you all enjoyed it, and if you did, don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe for more, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care, goodbye.